So we've talked a lot about lots of vocabulary and terminology and concepts and do this, don't do that with your credit card. Um, let's take a look real life. If you're going to apply for a credit card, what can you expect to see? And where can you find the really important information about the card you're about to sign up for? Okay. I just searched around a little bit and found a credit card. I'm not endorsing the Citi Double Cash card, but here's an example of a card. All right. So this card is backed by Citibank. So that's really who you're borrowing the money from. Um, it's also considered a MasterCard. Usually, when the banks partner with one of the major credit card companies like MasterCard or Visa, they kind of have a partnership there. So this is a Citibank card. And this one is nice because it has some cash back rewards. So you're getting 2% back on any purchases you make. So kind of neat. Right. And you can look through. Honestly, a lot of this is all the fancy marketing talk. Um, so here they're talking a little bit about balance transfers if you want, et cetera, et cetera. Some reviews, great. Okay. So let's say you want to apply. Um, so here I've decided to hit the apply. And again, they're going to tell you some information here. But even just the stuff they even tell you right here is not enough. This is just very quick, high level information about that. And so here's the application you would need. You'll need your social security number. You'll need to provide some financial information, your income, do you have a mortgage, etc. Right. Here is the really important part that I want to talk about and have you explore today. This is called the initial disclosure statement. These are the terms and conditions for this credit card. Okay. These are all of the rules that you have to follow for this credit card. And here they will lay out everything you need to know about your credit card. There cannot be any surprises as far as what are the rules, what are the terms and conditions of the card. There cannot be any surprises here. That's by law. Um, the Congress decided that it was very important for consumers to be able to know all of the terms and conditions of their credit card up front. In 1969, Congress passed the Truth in Lending Act, which basically made this terms and conditions, all of these disclosures, mandatory. They had to tell you upfront what it is you were dealing with. Okay. Now that we've talked about some of the vocabulary, let's take a look at some of the highlights here. We'll walk through this one together. I'm going to ask you to walk through one on your own just to make sure that you can read these so you know exactly what you're getting yourself into when it comes to signing up for a credit card. Okay. So, one, we want to maybe take a look at some of the different interest rates that are on this card. Okay. So up front, here's the APR for purchases. Great. Here we go. Showing you that this particular credit card, your interest rate can be anywhere between about 14% and 24%. Based on your credit worthiness. We're going to get to that more in the next unit or the next lesson. So there's a range here, right? Based on your history of borrowing, based on your credit history, we'll talk about something called your credit score. You could have anywhere between 14% and 24% interest on this card. Okay. We talked about, I think some folks asked in one of the previous videos, is the interest rate variable, right? And here it even says it right here. These APRs will vary with the market based on the prime rate. Remember, Federal Reserve adjusts the interest rates, right? So if the Fed ups interest rates, your credit card interest rate could go up, even if you are a very good customer, even if you always pay your bill on time and all of that, it's possible your interest rate could fluctuate. Okay. APR for balance transfers. They're giving you a 0% introductory APR for the first 18 months. All right. So you can do balance transfers interest-free for the first 18 months. After that, your APR jumps to between, again, 14 and 24%. and these are also variable. APR for cash advances. Remember, when you want to take cash out against your credit limit from an ATM, here you're going to pay 25.24%. So that's flat. You could have a 14% interest rate on purchases, but your APR for cash advances is 25.25%. That's a significant jump. Another reason why Anthony doesn't really like cash advances. Okay. And then here is the penalty APR, or we talked about the default rate, up to 30% based on your creditworthiness. How will it be applied? It will be applied either if you make a late payment or if you make a payment that is returned, if you bounce a check to the credit card company. Okay. If your APRs are increased for either of these reasons, the penalty APR may apply indefinitely. So in this case, you may not have a chance to come off the penalty APR. We might have to do a little bit more reading about that. Interesting. How to avoid paying interest on your purchases. This is what we called, remember, the grace period. Your due date is at least 23 days after the close of each billing cycle. We will not charge you interest on purchases if you pay your monthly Citi Flex Plan payment amount plus your entire balance. Right? If you pay your entire balance by the due date every month. Okay, so they're telling you right here, here's the grace period and here's how you get it. Minimum interest charges, etc. Fees. There is no annual fee for this particular card, but here are some fees there. Remember, we talked about this. Balance transfers, it's a $5 fee or 3%, whichever one is greater. Cash advances is $10 or 5% of the amount of the cash advance, whichever is greater. And in this case, you have to pay 3% 3% per purchase if you try to use your credit card in a foreign country. That's really interesting. When I've done traveling over abroad, I know my particular credit card does not have any foreign purchase transaction fees. That's going to depend per card, right? So you got to check that out. Fees for late payments. If your first late payment, no fee. They understand. After that, it may be $40. $40 every time you have a late payment. That's a serious fee. And if you bounce a check to them, it could be $40. Right? So here are a lot of the very important details spelled out. But now that we understand the terminology, we know what this vocabulary means, this is a lot easier to read. And if I keep going, there's more. This is a legal contract you're signing. Tons of lawyers drafted these. So there's a lot of really good stuff here that you really just need to pay attention to. Yeah. Here's actually even, we talked about this, how your interest rates are based on the prime rate. Here they're even telling you how they will calculate that. We will add 10.74 to 20.74 to the prime rate to determine your purchases APR. And they add almost 22% to the prime rate to determine the cash advances APR. There you go. So whatever the prime rate is, they're always going to add a certain value to the top. So that's exactly how they calculate your interest rate. And you can continue to read all of this information here, right? How to make balance transfers, DTD. You can read, and this is a little bit about their rewards program. I will post this on Classroom while you're watching this video. You can kind of look around with me. But here you go. This is called the initial disclosure statement. Either you're going to get it in the mail, and I get offers for credit cards very regularly from a lot of my different companies, and they will give this very, very long. When they print all this stuff out, in some cases you need a little bit of a magnifying glass to get down to the bottom to get what they call the fine print. So the important thing here is before you go ahead and just sign up for the card, before you go ahead and fill out this form, I encourage you very strongly to look at the disclosure statement, the initial disclosure statement, or the terms and conditions of the card. They have to legally tell you all the rules and the things you're signing up for. So if you want to try to compare cards, I don't know what card to sign up for. Take a look at their disclosure statements and maybe put them side by side. let's compare the interest rates. Let's compare the fee structure. Let's compare the amount of time you have to pay your bill so you can get a grace period. Can I do balance transfers, et cetera, right? So please make sure that you're reading these. And I think there's not a whole lot on this thing that we've looked at just now that you can't understand because we have talked a little bit about the vocabulary. If you didn't understand the vocabulary, this would be all gibberish. Okay. So what I'm going to ask you to do in the for this lesson is I'm going to post another disclosure statement, and I'm going to ask you to be able to pick out some of the really important things and maybe put an answer into some Google Forms just to see if you can collect the really important terms and conditions out of here.